Sometimes we carry burdens we weren't meant to carry alone. We hold on to pain, resentment, and self-doubt, thinking that if we ignore them, they'll disappear. But they don't. They settle deep within our hearts and minds, quietly shaping how we see ourselves and the world around us. Healing isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about acknowledging our wounds, giving ourselves permission to, and allowing space for growth and transformation. It's about letting go of what no longer serves us and embracing the power of self-compassion, patience, and faith. When we commit to healing our minds and hearts, we don't just survive, we thrive. We create a life where peace, joy, and clarity are not just fleeting moments, but a natural state of being. And it all begins with small, intentional steps toward understanding ourselves and seeking the guidance and support we need. Acknowledge your pain. Not because it makes you weak, not because you need to justify your emotions to anyone, but because your heart deserves honesty. There is a quiet, profound dignity in simply admitting to yourself, yes, this hurt me. We grow up learning how to hide our wounds, how to pretend everything is fine, how to keep moving even when something inside us is breaking. But ignoring pain does not heal it. Suppressing it does not make it disappear. What we bury alive does not die. It grows roots, it settles into our thoughts, it colors our perception of the world, and it whispers lies about who we are. That is why acknowledgement is the first doorway to healing. It is the moment your heart finally feels seen by you. When you acknowledge your pain, you stop running from yourself. You create a space where your emotions, no matter how overwhelming, can breathe without judgment. So often, we are harsh with ourselves in moments of struggle. We say things like, I shouldn't feel this way, or I should be stronger. But strength is not the absence of pain. Strength is the courage to turn toward it. Healing begins when you let yourself feel what you have been avoiding, whether it is grief, disappointment, betrayal, loneliness, or fear. These emotions are not your enemies. They are signals, invitations from your heart asking you to pause, to listen, to understand what has been left unresolved. Acknowledging pain does not mean drowning in it. It means naming it, giving it shape, understanding its origin. Sometimes the pain you carry is old, childhood wounds, unspoken words, moments where you needed love but received silence instead. Sometimes the pain is recent, a loss, a broken promise, a sudden shift that left you unprepared. And sometimes the pain is layered, a collection of moments you brushed aside because life demanded you to keep going. But regardless of its source, your pain is valid. It deserves compassion, not dismissal. There is a subtle transformation that takes place the moment you say, "Of this hurt me." Your heart relaxes. Your breath deepens. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost in the struggle. Acknowledging pain empowers you because it anchors you in truth. And truth frees you from pretending. When you stop pretending, you begin healing. Not by force, not by rushing, but by allowing. Pain is also a teacher. It reveals your unmet needs. It shows you the places within yourself that have been neglected for too long. It brings to the surface the beliefs you hold about your worth, your identity, your relationships, and your boundaries. When you acknowledge it, you gain clarity. And with clarity comes the ability to grow intentionally, not blindly. Many people fear acknowledging pain because they think it will break them. But the truth is, what breaks us is carrying pain that has never been spoken, never been processed, never been held with comprocessed. Pain held in silence becomes heavy. Pain acknowledged becomes lighter, more manageable, more human. You don't need to fix everything all at once. You just need to be honest about where you are. Sometimes, acknowledging your pain also means admitting that you cannot heal alone. It means allowing yourself to lean on trusted people, to ask for help, to seek a safe space where your emotions can unfold without fear of judgment. There is strength in vulnerability. The kind that softens the heart and reconnects you with the depth of your own humanity. And as you acknowledge your pain, remind yourself that it is not the end of your story. Pain is not a permanent state. It is a moment, a season, a chapter. It is a place you pass through, not a place you belong to. The act of acknowledgement is simply the first step toward releasing what no longer serves you. It is the beginning of reclaiming peace, rebuilding purpose, and remembering that you are worthy of a life where your heart is not constantly fighting to stay afloat. Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to heal. Your pain is real, but so is your strength. And when you finally acknowledge one, you begin to awaken the other. Practice self-compassion, not as a luxury, not as something you offer yourself only on the rare days when life feels gentle, but as a daily act of mercy toward your own heart. So often, we move through the world carrying expectations that are heavier than our spirits can bear. We judge ourselves for every misstep, criticize every imperfection, and replay every mistake as if we are unworthy of grace. We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to someone we love. And yet, the heart thrives not on harshness, but on tenderness. Self-compassion is not about excusing flaws or avoiding responsibility. It is about recognizing your humanity and treating yourself with the same kindness you offer to others. There are moments in life when your inner critic is louder than your inner comforter. That voice tells you that you are not enough, that you should have done better, that your weaknesses make you unlovable. But compassion invites you to challenge that the voice with gentleness. It invites you to pause and ask, if someone I cared for was going through this, would I speak to them this way? Most of the time, the answer is no. You would tell them to breathe. You would tell them they are doing their best. You would tell them that being human means making mistakes, learning, trying again. Practicing self-compassion means turning that same warmth inward. It means giving yourself the softness you so freely give away. Self-compassion also means embracing imperfection. The world often tells us that we must always be strong, always be confident, always be in control. But no one is perfect, and pretending to be only deepens the wounds you already carry. When you practice compassion toward yourself, you stop expecting yourself to always be at your brightest. You allow yourself to rest. You allow yourself to say, I'm struggling, and that's okay. You replace pressure with patience. Healing happens in those moments of acceptance, where you stop fighting your imperfections and start understanding them. Sometimes self-compassion looks like forgiving yourself for the times you didn't know better, for the moments you reacted out of fear, for the choices you made while trying to survive. It means looking at your past self with softness instead of shame. You were learning, you were doing the best you could with the knowledge, strength, and emotional capacity you had at that time. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is acknowledging the weight you've carried and gently setting it down. Other time, self-compassion shows up as boundaries. Saying no when your heart is tired. Stepping away from people who drain your energy. Allowing yourself to seek peace even if others don't understand. Compassion is not passive, it is active. It requires you to protect your emotional well-being by choosing environments, relationships, and routines that honor your inner needs. You are allowed to prioritize yourself without guilt. You are allowed to choose healing over pleasing. You may think that being kind to yourself will make you complacent or weak, but the opposite is true. Compassion strengthens you. It makes you more resilient, more grounded, more capable of growth. When you stop punishing yourself, you create space for transformation. You begin to heal not out of fear, but out of love. And love makes everything more sustainable. It's also important to remember that self-compassion is a practice, not an overnight change. There will be days when you slip back into old patterns, days when your inner critic is loud again. But that, too, is part of the journey. When you notice yourself being harsh, gently redirect. Offer yourself understanding instead of judgment. Say, and that's enough. Every small act of compassion rewires the heart. It teaches you to trust yourself again, to believe in your worth again, in the quiet spaces of your life, in the moments when no one is watching, when you are left alone with your thoughts. Speak to yourself with tenderness. Treat your wounds as sacred. Honor your efforts' worth. Celebrate the small steps you take toward healing. You deserve the softness you seek from the world. And when you learn to offer it to yourself, your heart becomes a place where healing is not only possible, but inevitable. Let go of resentment, not because the people who hurt you deserve forgiveness, but because your heart deserves. Resentment is a quiet poison. It settles slowly, sometimes without you realizing it, until it becomes the lens through which you see yourself, your relationships, and even your future. Holding on to resentment does not protect you, it binds you. It keeps you tied to moments that broke you, replaying memories that no longer serve your growth. It convinces you that clinging to the pain somehow balances the scales of justice, when in truth, it only drains your emotional and spiritual energy. Letting go of resentment does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It does not mean allowing people to walk over you, nor does it require you to minimize the impact of their actions. Letting go is not forgetting. It is choosing peace over bitterness. It is understanding that your heart cannot heal while it holds tightly to anger, grudges, or the desire for someone else to feel the pain they caused you. Resentment keeps you in a constant cycle of reliving what you want to move on from. It keeps your soul anchored to a moment that should no longer have power over you. When you choose to let go of resentment, you are choosing yourself. You are choosing to reclaim the emotional space that has been occupied by anger and disappointment for too long. Resentment can sometimes feel comforting because it gives us a sense of control, like the only way to protect ourselves is to stay guarded and unforgiving. But true protection does not come from closing your heart. It comes from strengthening it. And strength grows through acceptance, understanding, and the willingness to release what harms you internally, even if the world around you doesn't change. Often, resentment lingers because we were never given closure. Maybe no apology came. Maybe no explanation was offered. Maybe the person who hurt you moved on, unaware of the weight they left behind. But closure is not something another person gives you. It's something you create within yourself. It's the quiet decision to say, I will not let this define me anymore. The moment you release the expectation of receiving what you deserved, an apology, accountability, understanding, you begin to free your heart from emotional captivity. Letting go also means recognizing that resentment steals from your present moments. It clouds your joy, disrupts, and affects your ability to trust or connect fully. When your heart is full of old hurts, there is less room for the beauty and opportunities that are trying to enter your life. You deserve relationships that are not overshadowed by the shadows of the past. You deserve mornings that do not feel heavy because of yesterday's wounds. You deserve a life where your emotional energy is spent on growth, not on reliving old battles. But letting go is not always easy. Sometimes the pain was deep, personal, and unfair. Healing from such wounds takes time, patience, and gentleness. Start by acknowledging the resentment without judgment. Notice how it feels in your body, how it affects your thoughts, how it shapes your behaviors. Then slowly remind yourself that holding on to this emotion is costing you more than the original hurt ever did. You do not have to release everything at once. Letting go can be a process, a loosening, a softening, a gradual unfolding of the heart. Forgiving does not mean reconciling. It does not obligate you to rebuild a relationship with someone who harmed you. It simply means you are choosing not to carry the emotional burden anymore. You are choosing to free yourself from being tethered to pain that is no longer part of who you are becoming. Forgiveness is an act of self-care, a commitment to your own well-being. With every breath, remind yourself that peace is your birthright. You were not created to carry lifelong bitterness. You were created to rise, to heal, to evolve. And sometimes, the most profound act of strength is this simple truth: here I release what no longer belongs to my heart. Let go. Not to change the past, but to transform your future. Nurture your mind, gently, intentionally, and with the awareness that whatever you feed your thoughts eventually becomes the landscape of your inner world. The mind is a delicate space, shaped by what we consume, what we repeat to ourselves, and what we allow to linger. It can be your biggest ally or your quietest enemy. When neglected, it absorbs negativity, fear, and doubt without resistance. But when nurtured, it becomes a place of clarity, resilience, and peace. Nurturing your mind is not about filling it with constant positivity. It's about choosing what deserves space within you and what does not. Your mind needs nourishment just like your body does. Think of your thoughts as seeds. Some seeds grow into strength, others grow into worry. Whatever you water will flourish. When you repeatedly expose yourself to negativity, whether through environments, conversation, or self-talk, your mind begins to internalize those patterns. It becomes easier to believe the worst about yourself and the world around you. But when you feed your mind with wisdom, reflection, and calm, it begins to move toward light, even in difficult seasons. Part of nurturing your mind is becoming aware of what drains you mentally. Notice the way certain conversations leave you feeling unsettled. Notice the effect that constant comparison has on your spirit. Notice how quickly your energy shifts when you expose yourself to chaos or noise. The mind absorbs everything, even the things you think you're ignoring. Protecting your mental space means learning to step back from what pollutes it. You are allowed to distance yourself from negativity, even if it comes from familiar places. You are allowed to say no to conversations that burden you, to people who constantly drain you, and to habits that steal your peace. Another essential part of nurturing your mind is cultivating silence. Those moments where you allow your thoughts to settle instead of constantly being pulled by distractions. In the quiet, you begin to hear your own soul again. You hear the truth beneath the noise. You gain clarity about what matters and what doesn't. Silence doesn't always mean the absence of sound. Sometimes it means the absence of chaos. It is in these pauses that the mind heals from overload and reconnects with purpose. Reflection is also nourishment. Taking time to understand your experiences allows you to grow instead of repeating the same cycles. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? What do I want to release? What do I want to create more of in my life? When you reflect, you transform challenges into wisdom and failures into stepping stones. The mind becomes stronger when it learns instead of avoids. Reflection helps you build an inner foundation that is not easily shaken. Nurturing your mind also means being mindful of how you speak to yourself. Words carry energy, and the words you whisper to your heart in moments of fear or disappointment can either build you or break you. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love, with patience, encouragement, and understanding. Replace inner criticism with reminders of your strength. Replace self-doubt with gentleness. Replace harshness with compassion. Over time, these small shifts create a mental environment where healing can thrive. Surround yourself with inspiration. Read things that make you think. Listen to voices that elevate your understanding. Engage with ideas that stretch your perspective. When you nurture your mind with knowledge and wisdom, you begin to see possibilities where you once saw limitations. You begin to rise above circumstances rather than sink beneath them. Your outlook becomes clearer because your thoughts become clearer. And perhaps most importantly, nurturing your mind means resting it. Give yourself permission to pause. You are not meant to carry your responsibilities every second of every day. Rest is not weakness, it is preparation. When your mind roasts, it recharges. It sheds the weight of accumulated stress. It gains the capacity to face challenges with renewed strength. Rest is one of the most powerful gifts you can offer yourself. Your mind is the gateway to your emotional and spiritual well-being. When you nurture it, you nurture your entire life. A clear mind leads to a peaceful heart. A nourished mind leads to a resilient soul. And when you choose to prioritize this inner care, you create a life in which you are not merely surviving. You are growing, expanding, and rising into your full potential. Reconnect spiritually, not as a last resort when life becomes overwhelming, but as a gentle, steady return to the one who has been patiently waiting for you all along. There is a deep, indescribable calm that comes from remembering that you are not navigating this world alone. When your heart feels restless, when your thoughts feel heavy, when your steps feel unsteady, spirituality becomes the anchor that grounds you. It reminds you that beyond the noise of this world, there is a source of peace that never wavers, a presence that never abandons, a light that never dims. Reconnecting spiritually is not about perfection. It's not about flawless devotion, endless rituals, or appearing outwardly religious. It is about sincerity. It is about turning your heart, even in its most fragile state, toward the one who knows every struggle, every fear, every silent prayer you've ever whispered. Spirituality is the moment you breathe deeply and allow yourself to be held by something greater than your pain, greater than your worries, greater than this temporary world. It is the reminder that your soul was created with purpose, meaning, and divine care. There are times when life pulls you so far into its noise that you forget the softness of stillness. You forget the peace that comes from sitting in quiet reflection, from speaking to your Creator with honesty, from letting your tears fall in a space where they are understood without explanation. Reconnecting spiritually means returning to these moments where your soul feels seen. It means allowing your heart to exhale after holding so much for so long. Sometimes reconnecting spiritually begins with something as simple as gratitude. When you pause and acknowledge the blessings you walk past every day, the breath in your lungs, the warmth of sunlight, the people who love you, the small victories you barely noticed, your heart begins to open. Gratitude softens the edges of worry. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present. It becomes a doorway through which faith enters again, gently, quietly, beautifully. Other times, reconnecting spiritually means embracing prayer in whatever form you can manage. Even a single sincere moment, a whispered plea, a silent reflection, a heartfelt sigh, can draw you closer to the one who listens. Prayer isn't always eloquent. Sometimes it is broken, sometimes it is wordless. But sincerity turns even the simplest act of remembrance into something powerful. Your Creator does not expect perfection in your worship. He welcomes your honesty, your effort, your longing. Spiritual reconnection can also come through seeking knowledge and wisdom. When you learn, when you understand, when you explore deeper truths, your heart begins to align with values that elevate your soul. You begin to see life with clarity and purpose. You realize that spirituality is not separate from your everyday life. It is woven through every moment of it. How you speak, how you love, how you respond to hardship, how you choose kindness, these are all reflections of a heart connected to something. Surrounding yourself with spiritual reminders also nurtures your inner world. A verse that calms you, a reminder that brings you back to your center, a piece of wisdom that lifts your perspective. These small touches can guide your heart gently back to a place of truth and tranquility. Sometimes all it takes is a moment of stillness to remember what your soul has known all along: you were never alone. Reconnecting spiritually can also mean letting go. letting go of the illusion of control, letting go of the weight of expectation, letting go of the belief that you must carry everything by yourself. When you surrender your fears and trust in a plan greater than your own, your heart begins to heal from the inside. Surrender is not giving up, it is giving over, handing your burdens to the one who can carry them better than you ever could. And finally, reconnecting spiritually is about returning to yourself. Your true self, the self that is gentle, purposeful, compassionate, and aligned with the values that bring you peace. When you nurture your spiritual connection, you awaken a version of yourself that is stronger, calmer, and more rooted. You begin to walk through life with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are supported by something infinite. You don't have to be perfect. Just take one small step, then another, and another. With every step, your heart will soften, your mind will clear, your soul will rise, and you will rediscover the serenity that comes from being spiritually connected. Deeply, sincerely, beautifully. Take small steps daily, because healing, growth, and transformation were never meant to happen in sudden, dramatic leaps. They unfold quietly, slowly, in the hidden spaces of your everyday life. We often convince ourselves that change must be monumental to meta, that we must wake up one morning with everything fixed, everything clear, everything healed. But real growth doesn't look like that. Real growth is gentle. It's patient. It's a steady rhythm rather than a sudden burst. It's the small choices you make every single day that shape the direction of your heart and mind. When you commit to taking small steps, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You no longer demand instant results or flawless progress. You begin to honor your capacity in each moment. Some days, your step may be big, full of energy, motivation, and clarity. Other days, your step may be tiny, just getting out of bed, just breathing through the heaviness, just choosing not to give up. Every step counts. Every effort matters. Healing is not measured by speed, it's measured by sincerity. Taking small steps also teaches you co-steps. There is power in returning to your healing again and again, even when it feels slow. When you choose one small act every day, reflecting for a few minutes, expressing gratitude, praying sincerely, journaling your thoughts, setting a boundary, resting when you need it, you build habits that nurture your heart. Those habits accumulate, they strengthen you without you noticing. One day, you look back and realize how far you've come, not because of one giant leap, but because of countless small movements that carried you forward quietly. Small steps also protect you from overwhelm. When you tell yourself you must transform everything at once, you create pressure that your heart cannot bear. Overwhelm is where healing freezes, but small steps keep you moving. They are manageable, gentle, doable. They allow you to progress without burning. They remind you that you don't have to escape your struggle in one moment. You only need to keep moving through it. There will be days when your progress feels invisible. You may wonder if anything is changing at all, but small steps create internal shifts long before they create external results. The way you speak to yourself begins to soften. The way you respond to hardship begins to strengthen. The way you handle disappointment becomes wiser. Healing happens beneath the surface, in the quiet places no one else sees. Trust that the work is happening. Trust that consistency will always bear fruit. Taking small steps daily also cultivates patience with yourself. You begin to understand that healing is not linear. There will be days filled with clarity and days clouded by doubt, days when you feel strong and days when the old wounds ache again. But when you commit to small steps, you no longer judge yourself for these fluctuations. You allow yourself to be human. You allow yourself to start again as many times as needed. Each new day becomes another chance, another opportunity to move gently forward. These small steps accumulate into something profound. They reshape your identity. You begin to see yourself not as someone broken, but as someone rebuilding. Not as someone failing, but as someone trying. Not as someone stuck, but as someone steadily rising. Every small act of care, reflection, kindness, and intentionality becomes a brick in the foundation of the person you are becoming. And perhaps the most beautiful part of taking small steps daily is that it builds hope. When you see yourself showing up, even in the smallest ways, you begin to believe in your own resilience again. You begin to trust your ability to heal, to grow, to move forward. Hope doesn't always arrive in grand moments. Sometimes it appears in something as simple as trying again today. So take the small step. Drink the water. Breathe deeply. Pray sincerely. Read something that lifts you. Speak kindly to yourself. Rest without to yourself. Let go of one tiny burden today, even if it's just a thought. These are not insignificant. They are the quiet movements of a soul choosing to heal, slowly, steadily, beautifully. Over time, small steps become big, and you will become someone you are proud of, not because you rushed, but because you continued every day, in your own way, at your own pace.